All right, Wednesday Link live on a Wednesday. Thomas Mott, Josh Davis. What's up, guys? A lot of
What's
people
up?
waiting in the chat to get going. Josh, good evening. How are you?
Doing great. I am doing very swell on this Wednesday, this hump day. How about you?
Doing great. Doing great. Not much going on except for, a normal National Football League week where we have a lot to go ahead and get into. You actually messaged me some topics as we were getting ready for the show this afternoon. And it's so funny. Every single week, I expect things to die down because, we still have a long ways till the draft. We still have a long ways to the start of the NFL season. And yet, everything new keeps happening with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think we got to start with the fact that you actually ran into Bijan Robinson at the Texas, what is that? I don't know
Yeah,
what it's
the
called.
the
The
Dell match play.
Dell
Yeah, I
match
was.
play. That's right. You met him. You have a great story on it on your show from the other day. And I just want to get into your big takeaway. You texted me immediately that he is everything you would want based on seeing him in person. Explain that to me.
Yeah, he is. I mean, you said it right there. So, obviously, yeah, I go into it on my show, kind of the story of how I met him. I maybe should have thought like there's a possibility to see Bijan because we're in Austin, but really, it's I love golf. We're gonna have some rest and relaxation, stay with family, and lo and behold, he comes walking past hole 13. I'm like, oh my gosh! And so I obviously texted you. I'm like, hey, you won't believe who just walked in front of me. It's Bijan Robinson. And then the immediate goes to okay, I got to ask him. I got to try to find some time. But he was swarmed everywhere we went,
Yeah.
and just really got incredibly lucky because on the very next hole, there was kind of a breakup between the way that they had structured the stands and where the fans could get to. And so it was just me and this one other person, and he comes walking around the corner. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to ask him now. So I took a picture and then asked him what he thought of Philly. And, he said, we'll see. So you don't know exactly what to make of that, really. He was smiling, but he was awesome with all the fans. But then I texted you, and yeah, the dude is a monster. I'm like, I saw him up close playing Baylor, playing in the Big 12, like, just following him as much as possible. But seeing him in person, it is unbelievable the way he's built, and then the fact that you say he can run a 4.46 and move like that and make defenders miss. I mean, I was already starting to get on the Bijan train of draft him and everything else, but I'm telling you, of the guys that I've covered, and we went back and forth on this too. It's not like he's the only professional athlete that I've seen, working for ESPN and just covering a lot of other athletes, but he is incredibly, like, it's impressive and definitely intimidating to see a guy like that and think that he can move the way that he can. So yeah, it was a highlight. I'm hoping even more so that they draft him too, because then I can, feather in the cap of, hey, I'm at the Eagles first round draft pick. So we'll see. But yeah, incredible story. Very lucky and fortunate to be there.
And the fact that you got to see him in person again is awesome, and the fact that he could be an Eagle is even more awesome. We're gonna get to a lot of the Bijan comments. It's very funny. I think there's a complete split down the middle of Eagle fans regarding the Bijan Robinson to Philadelphia. There is the all in on one side, 50%, and then there is the people who do not want to touch him. I think your comments show this as well as my comments. It's split. People are either 100% for or 100% against. And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating to me to watch that happen with Bijan Robinson. And we're going to read comments, talk about Bijan Robinson during this show. We welcome in everybody who's just joining us as we get going. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button as we have almost 100 people getting ready for a Wednesday Link Live. A couple comments to get us going. Sternus, I think that's his name. Hi, waiting for the show to start here in Latvia. We already have Thursday here. So,
Sweet.
question, Thomas and Josh, who would be the most disappointing pick Howie could make at number 10? I mean, at number 10, you're going to get a good player regardless of their position. But in terms of like overall disappointing night one of the NFL draft, Skoronski, the offensive lineman, any offensive lineman, I don't care. I mean, pick the guy from Ohio State. You could go ahead and pick the guy from Georgia, any of them. I would be very disappointed in an offensive lineman because I don't think we need an offensive lineman. I think it's that simple. Not a chance.
Completely agree. Yeah. And it's already not the pick that you like to see to begin with, because it's not the flashy pick. It's just like, oh, okay, great. This is the tried and true method. But I think that you could trade back. I mean, yeah, maybe you're missing out on a guy like Skoronski, but there's other options available. And I think that with the talent you already have on the offensive line, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it would surprise a lot of people. We saw how he made that selection because we know what he's about. But yeah, I think that would be the selection where I would say if it's not Skoronski and you pick any other offensive lineman, absolutely, that's a terrible pick, because I think he's the only one that I've seen being mocked or even worth that number of a pick. I get the understanding or the feeling of Skoronski could make an impact because he's versatile and he could play guard or tackle. He has that versatility. But again, you're taking a 10th round or a 10th pick selection to play or to really not play. I mean, unless I don't know what, maybe he upstages Cam Jurgens and start, but either way, you're question mark there. So at the 10th selection, you're really hoping to pick a guy who's going to come in from day one and contribute. So I'm with you. I kind of agree. You don't really go that route, especially if it's another offensive lineman outside of Skoronski.
I totally agree. And it does feel like the Jeffrey Lurie interview, which we need to go get into right now. People are commenting about it already. Hints at an offensive skill player. And you did a video on this today. I did a short on it. If you missed it, Jeffrey Lurie was at the NFL annual meetings. And of course, Howie Roseman was there and all the coaches were there. So Sirianni, we got sound bites from all of them. And yet there was a specific soundbite from Jeffrey Lurie where he was asked, I didn't hear the question. I don't know if you heard the question. Was it, which do you prefer, offensive or defense? It felt like the question was, do you prefer offense or defense early in this draft? Is how I read it, but I didn't hear the entire question. And he made the case for offense. He made a very legit case for offense that makes a ton of sense. And so I just think that overall, he wants to go ahead and get Bijan Robinson. And yes, if you need to charge your laptop, Josh, you just texted me. Go ahead. Okay. I'll handle it. Yeah, hop off.
I'll be back in 1 second.
I'll go ahead and handle it. Josh will be back here in 1 second. He has to charge his laptop. So, yeah, that was happening right now. Got to make sure we have the laptop to charge. It does feel like, though, that Jeffrey Lurie said offense and wants to go ahead and do offense. Now, does that mean that Jeffrey Lurie has the final say in who the Philadelphia Eagles draft? No. I mean, I think it very much is Howie Roseman. Now, Jeff is the owner, and Jeffrey Lurie can, hint and give his input and really do whatever he wants. But it's very different the way the Eagle front office and fences run from someone like Dallas and how the Dallas front offices run, where Jerry Jones is, king and does whatever he wants. And there are so many times during the recent NFL drafts where reportedly Jerry Jones wanted somebody and the Dallas front office people wanted somebody else. And Jerry said, no, we're going to go ahead and take that person. And so it definitely is different in how it works. But if you were going to read into the situation with Bijan Robinson to the Eagles, it felt like Jeffrey Lurie really wanted the Eagles or hinted that the Eagles would take him. Now, something that we never talk about is smoke screens, and smoke screens can be very, very real. And Jeff could have been throwing out a completely bogus smoke screen where he says, hey, we really want to kick an offensive player, wink, wink, and they take Jalen Carter. So it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say about how that's going to go.
I think the question you were mentioning, Jeffrey Lurie, and what the question, it was kind of hard to hear. I agree whenever I was listening to the press conference. I think it was kind of a reference to he's answered this question in the past. And so he says, I can maybe answer that a little bit better. So maybe some more clarification of like what his preference would be. But I mean, I don't think that it's smoke and mirrors. I think it's just being truthful and honest to tell you, hey, look, we value offense and we've done that for a long time, but especially in this day and age, because I mean, he says it, he's like, you win on the offensive side of the ball. The offense is more dominant if you had an offense. And he obviously brings up if the holding call wasn't there and the minute 43, the timeout you would have had. I think we would have won. I think everyone thinks we would have won. It was the team that had the ball last is basically going to win that game. But yeah, with the way that the rules are called and everything else, offense is very dominant and it's very important in this league. So then it begs the question, you got the debate is, does defense win championships anymore? I don't think so. Yes, you need a defense of some caliber because we've seen if you can't play complementary football, you're not going to win regardless. But I don't think it's the day and age anymore of you can have a defense, like I know it's been a long time, but you think of the Baltimore Ravens just carrying Trent Dilfer to a Super Bowl championship. Even the Seahawks, I mean, they had Russell Wilson in a better offense, but still, whenever he was just starting out and the Legion of Boom was there, it was definitely a defensive dominating performance. But I don't think that you're really going to see that anymore. I mean, the field hurt the defense for sure. It gets the Chiefs, but I think it's with this offense, you're seeing what the team is building around, and the fact that a lot of the resource allocation, as Lurie mentioned, is going on the offensive side of the football. So it's no surprise there. But yeah, he's definitely in favor of the offense.
It does seem that way. And what you got to realize is defense can win a bunch of games. It's going to even win playoff games. The Eagle defense, yes, the offense scored a lot of points in those 2 playoff games, but the defense is what kept Daniel Jones from doing nothing and what really kept every quarterback that played for the 49ers from doing anything. And the problem is that when you get to a Super Bowl, you're running into a great quarterback. And it's going to be for the next 10 years, Take your pick. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, potentially, if he's over with the Jets. The guy, Trevor Lawrence, down with the Jaguars. I mean, you're eventually going to run into these guys. And at those points, the defense is going to probably get shredded a little bit. And you saw it with our defense. So you still need to have a good defense. But I think what people need to take away from that is the Eagles have a good defense right now. Like, the Eagles could do nothing in the draft and still have a top 15 defense. And that's all you need. You can't win with the 32nd ranked defense or the 28th ranked defense, but 14th ranked defense overall, sure. I mean, you could 100% win championships with that. Chiefs defense wasn't anything crazy special that past year. You can only name maybe one player on the Chiefs defense just off the top of your head, not being a Chiefs fan, and Chris Jones. And so, I think Philadelphia going offense at 10 would not be a bad thing. But as a lot of people are commenting right now, it still feels like it'll be a pass rusher because Howie Roseman absolutely loves his pass rushers. And I see a comment here saying, I think Nolan Smith to Philly is a big possibility. I would agree. I think Nolan Smith makes a lot of sense. I did a whole video today about, the 10 people I think the Philadelphia could take at number 10. And Nolan Smith was like 6. He was 7. I don't know if scheme fit is perfect for his skill set. I think they would rather have an interior defensive lineman or a true edge rusher like Tyree Wilson. But as everybody points out, Tyree Wilson might not be there. And if Tyree Wilson is not there, or he is there, then you would take him. But if not, I think Nolan Smith's a totally fine option. Just scheme fit for me would be a question that Sean Desai would be able to answer.
Yes, yeah. And at least Sean Desai does have the ability to, as he's used a lot, but a lot of versatility. We've seen as players that the Eagles are signing, and so he likes those types of players that you can move around and put it in a bunch of different packages and a lot of different looks for opposing quarterback staff to deal with. But yeah, I'm with you. It seems like it would be more of an interior defensive lineman or possibly even an edge rusher just with more size and ability to stack up against the run. I love all of Nolan Smith's measurables and his bend and just, all the scouting report that we're seeing about him. So I don't think it would be a bad pick, but I would be surprised if they did do that at 10. I did want to go back though, because you mentioned obviously, kind of talking about the offense. We're mentioning Jeffrey Lurie and his conversation. If you didn't get that, go back to the press conference, listen to it towards the very end, but him mentioning about the offense and how offense wins championships basically is kind of what he went to. But how often is it that we see, if you're a good quarterback, because this could be the argument too, of if you're a premier quarterback or an elite quarterback, that at the end of the game, if you have the ball, you're going to go down and win the game. We see it from Patrick Mahomes. We see it from those types of players.
Right.
And those are the elite quarterbacks. And the ones that can't do it, and Dak Prescott, are the ones that are not elite. And so it's funny that it comes up because earlier this week there was this whole conversation of, I think Joe Giglio of WIP started it, but it was is Jalen an elite quarterback? And I thought that's a kind of a ridiculous question to ask, because did you just see what he did in the Super Bowl?
Right.
But he was of the argument of the mindset to say, I don't know if I'm going to go there and say that Jalen's an elite quarterback yet. To me, I think that's ridiculous, because I've seen articles of, hey, what's the top quarterback in the NFC? And yes, the rankings or the talent, the competition on the NFC is not as high, obviously, on the AFC side. But I think there's a difference, and we could see what Jalen was able to do in many games this year, but especially in the Super Bowl, the highest stage, and him be able to rise to the occasion. So it's a good point to make, but I think that even on top of, hey, offense is very highly coveted, and that's really kind of what wins championships, is what does your best player do at the height of competition, at the premier moment where they have to make a play? Can they march their team down the field, or are they maybe like a Dak Prescott and they just all of a sudden can't get anything done and spike the ball whenever time's expiring?
It is the one difference. I mean, Dak Prescott's not a bad quarterback, and few Eagle fans will say that. Any Eagle content creator or NFL content creator on Twitter likes to rip Dak Prescott, and that's fine. And he's not great. He's very, very good, but what happens? He shrinks in big games, and that's the difference between elite and non-elite quarterbacks, or elite and great quarterbacks, or elite and good quarterbacks. And Jalen Hurts, so far, hasn't shrunk in big games this past season. So until he does, then we'll go back to this conversation. But there's no way that you can say Jalen Hurts is not even close to being an elite quarterback based on what you saw this past year, where it literally took the defense not being able to get a stop in a Super Bowl. Had they done it, I think we all feel like Hurts got a chance to go back and have a real good chance at potentially winning that Super Bowl on the final drive. But I don't like to talk about that Super Bowl. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Ohana Means Family says Dak is average. And he's not average. Dak's above average. I mean, Dak's better than half the quarterbacks.
He's a regular season quarterback.
Yeah, he's fine. Kirk Cousins is a really good regular season quarterback. A lot of quarterbacks end up being really good regular season quarterbacks. There's a reason why there are so few elite quarterbacks, and that's because they don't win a lot in the postseason or put themselves in positions during the regular season to win a lot in the postseason, because we don't realize how important one seeds are and home field advantage is, and not having to play good teams early in the playoff games. So, it is what it is. Okay, I do want to mention here quickly, as we get going here, jersey giveaway still going on. If you have not seen this yet, first time seeing it, we are giving away whoever the first round draft pick of the Eagles is jersey coming up on night one of the NFL draft. All you got to do to enter is drop a super chat between now and the draft on one of our live shows. Every dollar you enter is an entry, and then be subbed to myself and Josh's channels. And then night one of the draft, we're going to be live, of course, doing a NFL draft link live, and we will pick one of you, and it'll be randomly selected through a name generator, and we will select someone to win the draft jersey. So is it Bijan Robinson? Is it Tyree Wilson? Is it Skoronski? Is it Nolan Smith? I don't know. As number 0 Nolan Smith jersey, though, or number 0 Christian Gonzalez jersey could be pretty cool too. So plenty of options here. Any super chat tonight will be entered in, as we have a bunch of people that have entered the past couple of weeks, and you have plenty of more options there as well.
That would be pretty sweet. You mentioned Agent Zero, the jersey. Obviously the NFL passed the fact that you can have the number 0 now. So then the question becomes, who is that player going to be? I don't think it's going to be a draft pick. Do you? I mean, it seems like, I know that I think the first person that I saw actually on Twitter was Calvin Ridley, like immediately saying, "Hey, that's mine," and the Jaguars then coming out and saying, "Yeah, okay, he's going to be number 0." But it seems like that's a number that a lot of players are going to want now that that's an option. So I don't know that a draft pick is going to get that, but do you have any picks on maybe who that would be, or who I don't know, out of the options? I know Reed Blankenship's one. Somebody said Rashad Penny, because kind of the underdog, got a lot to prove, refreshing season, whatnot. But who would you want in number 0 if you could pick?
Oh man,
you got Kelly Green. The Kelly Green jerseys are back. Kelly Green 0. Who's that on the team? In the comments, let us know. Who do you want as number 0?
Let us know. Let us know down below. Be very interesting. Be very interesting to see what you guys think. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting overall. Ohana Means Family, draft 5. Yeah, we've been seeing that. A lot of people are wanting to draft 5. That's for sure. A lot of people are wanting to draft 5. Let's see. Reddick and Smith can't play at the same time. Who stops the run on the edges? That is the issue with Nolan Smith there. Truly, is because Reddick is not a defensive end. He's an outside linebacker who can rush the passer. So, there's this whole idea that you couldn't have them on the field at the same time, which is fine. But do you want your first round draft pick to be a rotational guy? That's a serious question. Do you want the first round draft pick to be a rotational guy? And I don't know. I'm not sure that I want that, which is why Lucas Van Ness comes to mind. The guy from Clemson comes to mind. Obviously, Tyree Wilson comes to mind. There are a lot of options there.
Yep. And I don't think you can go wrong. Yeah, we've said this a lot of times, but you have the luxury of being in the 10th spot. I mean, hopefully the 3 quarterbacks are almost a lot to go off the board, but hopefully 4. And then in that case, you're getting a pretty good pick. Obviously, there's a couple teams in front of you, and so you're gonna have to take what the other teams give you at that point and what's available. But I think it's a really great position to be in, because if talent's there, you just grab them. If not, you can trade back, but you have lots of options there to begin with. So I'm in favor of it. Hey, make sure to like, by the way, because we've got we have 172.
Yeah,
we only have 39 likes. So give it a like real quick. Get the algorithm up. Appreciate you guys joining.
Do y'all not cover Nolan Smith at all? Literally good against the run. Even a press saying he likes going against the run. Y'all need you to know your information. I think that was replying to a comment there. I'm not saying he's bad against the run. I just don't know if he's the right fit in this defense. That's the real question there. That's the real question there.
Yeah, he's not like he's bad, but again, it's the difference in what even scouting reports are saying, because that's all we're basically going off of. We're not trying to say we're experts in the draft or even covering these players, but what the reports are saying, if there's a knock or if there's a weakness, is it's just the size. I mean, like in the college game, Nolan Smith can kind of get around it of being a little bit of a slider defensive lineman. He's not small by any means, but if you go up to the NFL level, yeah, the guards and tackles that he's going to play against, just the more physicality, there's some questions and concerns that we've seen from scouting reports of, hey, is he going to get washed out whenever you've got run blocking and, scheming against him? Possibly. He's an incredibly talented player. And obviously, yes, we've seen lots of the videos of him being able to maneuver or get around offensive linemen. So I don't think it's an issue of if he can do that, but I think what scouts are even saying too is on what regularity. Do you want to draft him, or do you want to take a guy who's a little bit stronger, a little bit more physical, and it can hold up, especially for a team like the Eagles, because as I think the comments are mentioning too, you've got Hassan Reddick, which is kind of a similar type of Nolan Smith player. So I don't know. Do you want two of those players on your defensive scheme? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see what Sean Desai likes.
Could see Slay in 0, or maybe even Terrell Edmonds. I could see Slay at 0. Although another jersey change for Slay, it's like there are a lot of 24 Slays in the crowd at Lincoln Financial Field, and then he swapped to 2, and then it switched to 0. I hate when guys chase jersey numbers.
Yeah,
I really do. I
do
hate
too.
it. I
You've
get
already
it.
spent a lot of money, you've invested on it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, so you've got the, it seems like you have the knockoff at that point. You get the second one. So
Micah Parsons mentioned he wants to change to 0. How many Cowboy fans have Micah Parsons jerseys that they just have to get rid of? It's useless. It's not going to work.
oh man.
Yeah, crazy. What's up with the Jeff Simmons, says Jackson Price. I don't know. I haven't seen any update on the Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle for the Titans situation right now. This whole idea that the Titans are trying to trade everybody was always a little bit dramatic to me, but they, still could as we get closer to the draft. They weren't going to trade AJ Brown, at least what they said, and then they did. So I don't know.
I don't think it's realistic. I know that Jimmy Smith of On the Road to Victory had done kind of a cap breakdown, and some of you guys had mentioned it, but it makes sense. And yes, you can make it work for the first year. The first year is never an issue, and I get that. And he did a fantastic job again of breaking down what the cap hit is. But the question is then, are they going to re-sign? Are they going to extend? And then what does the cap hit be? Because you have lots of room right now, but we still haven't gotten the Jalen contract and other potential contracts. So does Howie want to try to sign this up and then, limit the resources? I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think, Thomas, you probably agree with it too. It's not impossible to get a trade, but for one, you have to have the Titans willing to do it. And they already made a crazy trade to give us AJ Brown. I doubt that you're going to get a second year in a row of some type of trade like that. But also then it becomes, I think that Jalen Hurts' contract would have to be done first, because that's the main priority before Jeffrey Simmons, before anybody else. Get Jalen's deal done, and then you figure out what cap space you have in the following years. Then, you know what? Hey, if it makes sense, and the Titans have lost their mind and they're willing to do it again, sure, yeah, you know what? Go after a guy like that, because I agree with some of the comments and arguments that I've seen in the shows this week that I've done of Jeffrey Simmons is a known commodity. You know exactly what he brings. There's no risk involved. So if you could trade a first-round pick and get a guy like that, yeah, I'd be all for it. But again, it always comes back to what's the cap hit for the extended years, not for just year one, because Howie very rarely signs players, at least on bigger deals, where he's going to have to for sure re-sign to a one-year contract. Now, you'll do it for the veterans, as we've seen. We've done it for a lot of players that are injured, have some potential, a prove it type of year, but not for guys who for a fact are going to get massive deals the very following year. We lost out on Javon Hargrave, but I don't think Howie wants to keep having that happen of, hey, you got a one-year deal, all of a sudden, okay, well, great, now we can't sign this guy back. So he's thinking long-term, and he's mentioned it quite a bit. He's always looking long-term, looking for backup plans for options and everything else. So I think Jalen Hurts deal has to get done first before you see anything there. But then maybe, who knows? It's wouldn't put it past Howie. He does a lot of trading, as we know. Maybe during the draft.
I'd be shocked. Ohana Means Family makes a great point. The Titans' new GM isn't calling up Howie. He learned from their last GM getting fired for trading away AJ Brown to us. Yeah, seriously, that's the whole thing. There's just no way that you would ever trade any of their star players back to a team where your fan base thinks that you fleeced them already. It's like, imagine how Titan fans felt, and I'm not a Titan fan, nor do I know anyone who is, just based on being an Eagle fan, but I think the Titan community was crazy in terms of whenever they lost AJ Brown. I think it was absolutely nuts. Speaking of the Jalen Hurts contract situation, I still surprised. I know that they all said the right things at the NFL annual meetings. Sirianni talked about it. It's going to happen. Howie Roseman talked about it. It's going to happen. Obviously, Jeffrey Lurie talked about it's going to happen. So it's going to happen, but when's it going to happen? And I think the theory I said on my show, and I think most people have said this, not anything special, is Herbert and Burrow and Hurts, and now Dak too. They're trying to get Dak done early, are all trying to get paid the most. They're all trying to wait for the other to go. That way they can get more. And Jalen Hurts has the upper hand in a sense that he can basically sit back and go, hey, look what Justin Herbert got. Has Justin Herbert been to a Super Bowl yet? No, he hasn't. So I'll take more than Justin Herbert. And if Herbert gets $50 million a year, which is, it could, 47, then, the Eagles are going to be ponying up a lot more money. And so I think Philly desperately has probably offered him a number. And Jalen Hurts' agent, and I think it's Nicole Lynn, right? I think she is handling this the way that I would if it was my client. I'd say, wait. We're in no rush. They're obviously going to extend you. Let's see who the first domino is to fall. And it's all of them playing a giant game of chicken, not wanting to accept it, not wanting to accept the very first offer.
And that's the right play. Again, if you're in negotiation, sure, wait, see what the market holds. What can you get if there's a massive deal? Obviously, yeah, your value goes through the roof there. You mentioned, guys like Herbert and some of the other contracts that they're waiting to get done. But yeah, you hear all these rumors, all these speculation. I think the most recent article from I think Matt Lombardi had posted kind of what are the expectations or rumors that he's hearing about the numbers. And I mean, I saw one that was saying like around 45 million, another one that was saying around 42 or 43 million. I don't expect that. I think that's way too low, but they're saying like, Mahomes is 45, but he did it on a 10-year deal, obviously.
Yeah,
So
it was a long deal.
I mean, if you maybe, do you look at locking Jalen up for 10 years? Possibly that could make sense and work, but I don't know. I feel like it'd be more likely that Howie's going to go in there and do maybe a 5-year deal, possibly 6. But then in that case, yeah, you're saying, well, I'm probably going to get paid more per year at that point. So to me, I'm thinking if it's anything less than like a 48 million a year, that's a steal. Otherwise, I could very easily see him still getting a 48, 49, 50 million per year. And it's crazy to say those numbers, but the salary cap is increasing. The market just kind of continues to be reset. And if Jalen wants to go in and argue, he could say, well, Aaron Rodgers is getting these numbers. And I know that, you could say Aaron Rodgers was great, but we saw a big dip in it this year. So, he has all the firepower he needs to really go and negotiate. So it's not surprising. It's taken a little bit longer maybe than what the team would have thought. But, we'll see. Maybe Jalen wants to give a little team friendly discount, take a little bit off. He's still going to get paid astronomically high, but maybe he does. Maybe he wants to take a little discount.
The way the bonus money works out, is there an extra year? Is it 5? Is it 6? That will all play into how much it turns out to be in the end. I mean, guaranteed money. I mean, that's a big problem right now. We talk about that with Lamar Jackson. That's a huge issue for NFL owners. They are scared to death of that, as they should be. And it's a lot of things going on. All right, first entry, Sydney family getting 2 more entries in. I know I've seen Sydney family get some entries in for the jersey giveaway. Good morning. Any thoughts on Carl Brooks in the second? For those of you who don't know, Sydney family is in Australia, so it is morning for them. Carl Brooks is the pass rusher from Bowling Green, I think.
Yep.
Not a first-round draft pick, but I maybe second. That's the problem with, and I'll admit my own flaws when it comes to the draft. I focus in on the first round. I focus on the first round because the first round is what you guys want to know about. Who's going at 10, who's going at 30. Very rarely do non-draft experts, and I'm not a draft expert, actually look at these later round guys. I don't know enough about him. But if Philadelphia comes out with a pass rusher in round 2, I think a lot of us expect it to be a starter caliber player. And maybe if they don't get a pass rusher at 10, they don't get a pass rusher at 30, they get one in the second round. There's a very real possibility Philly could go O-line, and then they could go corner, and then they could go second round with a pass rusher. Very real possibility. It could totally happen. I don't know enough about him.
I could definitely see that. I've seen him a couple times just because I usually do a mock draft like once every day. So, I mean, just from the small write-up that I've seen there, I've started taking a look like once or twice a week at maybe a sleeper pick. So I did JL Skinner a couple of shows ago, if you didn't catch that. But for Carl Brooks, I mean, he's a big, sturdy defensive line. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. So, you've got the strength, you've got the size. I know from just the write-up here that I pulled up real quickly, they're saying his improvement area could be some lower body strength. So he does have the strength to kind of hold up and stop the spot. But as far as like a pass rush and getting through maybe double teams or other offensive linemen, there's a question mark there. So, but he seems to be available again. And this is just the mock draft, so probably not going to be completely accurate for what actually happens on draft night. But he seems to be available late second round, even into like the middle of the third round. He's someone that, if you haven't selected a guy by that point, I mean, his size alone makes you, think maybe that's a possibility, a 6'4", 300. But I feel like if you're gonna go defensive lineman, especially with the picks and the way they line up this year, maybe go for it with one of the first round picks. I mean, it would surprise me if Howie didn't do that, because that's where he goes, as we mentioned multiple times, wants to win in the trenches. So you don't really need offensive line, but D line would be great. So either at 10 or 30, I think you have to select it there, and then probably not a Carl Brooks at that point.
I think once you get past pick 40, everyone's draft board changes and it turns into who they think is better than the other person. Like the first 35, 32, 40 picks, excuse me, whatever the number is, people basically have it as the same, right? Now they have differences. Do you put Bijan at 10? Do you put him at 20? Do you put Jalen Carter at 5? Do you put him at 15? Like they're considered first round draft picks, right? Everyone has the same first round draft picks basically in there, except for a couple of people. Once you get out of that, it's anyone's guess. And so is Carl Brooks a late first rounder on someone's board or an early third rounder on someone's board? That'll be the question that'll be answered on night one of the draft. And that's where you see a ton of draft trades happen night one, or the first couple hours or first couple picks of day two, because people are like, oh my gosh, this person is still there. That's got to be a big thing. That's got to be an absolutely massive thing if he's actually still available. So we will see on that overall. Okay, quickly, Andrea Ford is entered. Andrea entering into the giveaway. I know she already has. Andrea, good evening to you. 10 entries into our first-round draft pick jersey giveaway. Hey, guys,
you,
Super
Andrea.
Bowl fund. Oh, that's right.
There we go. We started that last week. So
we did. Yeah, the Super Bowl fund. You guys do not need to fund us to get the Super Bowl. It is way too expensive. But if Josh and I both said if they go this year, then we'll
we're going to figure out a way.
Mortgage our houses and try and find a way and, do it that way. So
double mortgage, reverse mortgage, whatever we need to.
Too funny. We appreciate it, Trey. Way too funny. I appreciate it.
Do you have your Twitter pulled up?
I saw that.
See if you could screen share. Yeah, just because we're going.
Oh, I don't have it pulled up on my big one. No. I don't have it on this one. Yeah.
I was going to say there's a graphic there. It'd probably be cool to see, but it just basically breaks down, Howie and what he's done in past drafts. So DeBur's blog is the one who kind of tracked this and pulled this data, but I think it's always fascinating to see, again, Howie never ceases to amaze us. And so he could surprise or go off what his traditional stance is. But in the graphic that he had pulled up, that 24% of the time since 2016, 24% of the time he's drafted defensive line. And it also breaks it down by day. So it's, what's his day one pick, 2, 3, so on and so forth. But for day one, that's the number one pick. If you look back since 2016, it's defensive line. The second most in day one is actually wide receiver, believe it or not. So and then it's offensive line and quarterback are tied with one apiece. But it was just interesting to look at that. And that's where I go back to the whole Carl Brooks idea of how he values one of the trenches positions. Like if he's going to take his pick in the first round, it's probably going to be defensive line or it's probably going to be offensive line. But what is the need of this team? And for a long time, we've seen, obviously, this has been one of the best offensive lines of football, still is, will be. So where do you need to solidify the defensive line? And you have a 10th pick, you have a 30th pick. So that's where I would say I would be shocked if you don't take one of those at the defensive line, knowing how he does and what he likes to do every single year of value that position.
I totally agree. 100%. I totally agree. Joe Magoon. Philadelphia Eagles might end up like the Denver Broncos or Baltimore Ravens with this lagging signing Jalen Hurts. What does that mean? Lagging signing? Joe, let us know what you mean. As in, like, paying him too much?
I'm assuming just maybe waiting to get a deal done. Like,
lag is in like waiting to get,
yeah. Like, I don't think we're in that situation.
They're trying to get a deal done, and they will get a deal done. Okay, do you really think?
And Jalen's not as crazy as Lamar. Like, let's get that straight too.
And by crazy, you mean then the money that Lamar Jackson wants, and by not having an agent.
Yeah. We just start out with, guess what? Jalen has an agent. Like that's probably the first and most important thing. But yes, the money that he wants, the fact that it's guaranteed money, like Jalen knows he's going to get great money, but I don't think Jalen's going in there and, he's got an agent for a reason, but he's probably not even super involved in these contract negotiations till it gets very close. And his agent says, hey, we're at, whatever number. He's probably just saying like, hey, Nicole, take care of it. Let me know whenever we're starting to reach the number we're targeting. Otherwise, I want to be out of it because, we know he's a maniac and he's just working out at the facility anyway, like Nick Sirianni said this week. So I don't think that there's any concern. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of time because these negotiations always do. And I can't imagine that Howie's had too much time with all that's transpired in free agency to be completely focused on that because it is a priority and he's made it known. So I haven't seen any reports. I haven't seen or heard anything that suggests, oh, maybe there's a breakdown in communications. There's not a deal that's going to be signed. There's not an extension. I don't think there's any concern or reason to worry at this point. But I don't know where you're coming from with the whole lagging, or it's night and day difference, I guess, from this situation to what you're seeing with Baltimore. That's what I'm thinking.
And Lamar Jackson has officially requested a trade as well. So
there you go.
There's that. Wasn't it Nick Sirianni that said Jalen Hurts has been in the NovaCare complex working out like every single day this offseason?
Yeah,
I don't think Lamar has been inside the Ravens place right now.
Probably not.
We got super chats. I'm going to go to them in 1 second. One thought on Lamar. It's very simple, right? Listen, Lamar Jackson wants guaranteed money. And Lamar Jackson sees himself as a crusader for future quarterbacks and future players getting guaranteed money. And if you're an NFL player, you want a guaranteed contract. You want fully guaranteed. That way, you don't lose out on any money. When you get hurt and blow out your knee, and you can't play the final couple of games of final couple of years of your career. That's what he's like crusading for. And it's a very fair thing. But we've seen what happens with guaranteed contracts everywhere. Think about the guaranteed contracts in the MLB. Who's that famous guy that makes like $3 million a year in baseball, and he has for the past 30 years because they gave him some guaranteed contract that pays him?
Deal, yep.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's different in the fact that he wanted it, paid out longer term. So he took less up front. But these guys want guaranteed money right up front. But the owners say no, because if you sink $400 million into a quarterback who plays 2 out of the 7 years that you signed him to, you're going to be in franchise hell for your entire lifetime. So I get what Lamar's trying to do. I respect what Lamar's trying to do. I would want the same, but I think that the Watson precedent by the Cleveland Browns being idiots kind of ruined everything.
Yeah.
Like kind of ruined everything.
Sure.
So,
yep.
And Lamar will sign with somebody. Come on. Obviously, he's going to sign with somebody. I think Atlanta should trade for him. I live in Atlanta. I used to cover the Atlanta Falcons for their flagship radio station, doing their caller post-game show. They need some life, and Lamar would give them life. But Arthur Blank said just the other day, the owner of the Falcons, that they're going to go with Desmond Ridder, and they have injury concerns for Lamar Jackson, which any Lamar Jackson apologist always seems to forget the fact that he hasn't finished the past 2 seasons because he was injured. And that's a serious concern. It's a concern. Yep. If Jalen Hurts gets hurt next year and then got hurt the year after that, we would all be saying the exact same thing. Okay? All be saying the exact same thing.
Absolutely agree. Yep.
Okay. Joseph. I don't think Joseph's gotten in on the jersey giveaway yet. We'll see. Josh can look it up, but you get 2 entries regardless, which I appreciate, Joseph. 2 entries there. Kelly Green jerseys are fresh. They are, although we haven't seen them yet. Now, I will say this. The thumbnail has Hurts in that very famous mock-up, which you can Google, Jalen Hurts, Kelly Green jersey. That's a fake mock-up. Someone did that. They edited that. I saw a tweet with that picture saying basically that, hey, any jersey that doesn't look as good as this in the Kelly Green, Eagle fans are going to go crazy. And I agree, because it looks so insanely good in Kelly Green. Now, I'm a Midnight Green apologist. I think Midnight Green should be their permanent ones. And I like the idea of Kelly Green being alternate. I think Midnight Green is what I grew up with, being 26 years old. I think Philadelphia, for me, is Midnight Green. But Kelly Green has a great look, and I would love it as a Monday night alternate, a Sunday night alternate against the Dallas Cowboys. No problem with it. And I bet you when they officially come out, Josh and I might give one away as well, one of these days.
We have to, for sure. Yeah, those are so awesome. Whenever I saw those, I've got it. Actually, the show that I did today kind of used it as the thumbnail. But the Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, obviously, like you mentioned, those are not the official jerseys. It's just a mock-up. But if it's anything close to it, I know everyone's pretty much been saying, take my money. And yeah, there will be, needless to say, lots of money spent on that attire. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But got you down, Joseph. Appreciate the contribution there. You got 2 entries.
City got 8 more entries here. If Jeffrey Simmons signed, does this change the draft picks at all? Well, you have to trade a draft pick to get him, and it would take a first-round draft pick. You would have to give up one of your 2 first-round draft picks. Now, I would give up 30 in a heartbeat for Jeffrey Simmons, just like I would have given up whatever it was, 18 for A.J. Brown. I think that you're getting, a plug-and-play Pro Bowler versus a plug-and-play rookie. Excuse me. The problem with Jeffrey Simmons, as I mentioned on my show, and I'm sure Josh did on his, is you got to give him a new contract, and it's got to be a big one. And that's going to be a serious issue there. So I don't think it's going to happen. And that's not to say that I wouldn't do it. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that's the one thing that I think both of us try really hard to do on our shows when there are these rumors for, trading for this player, signing for that player. We break down the rumor, but we also go, the odds of it happening are very slim. And I think Eagle fans need to know that, because you can read a headline that says, oh, the Eagles, should trade for this player. And, everyone uses headlines like that for any Eagle Channel Denver Bronco channel, NFL channel, whatever it is, whatever kind of channel you have, Apple iPhone channels. The one talking about iPhone news has all the ridiculous, titles. But when you actually watch the video, are they being realistic? And I think that that's what you need to do with stuff like this, especially Jeffrey Simmons. What's the realistic option that it happens? Yes, I want him. Is he actually going to become an Eagle? Probably not. And that's where I'm at on Jeffrey Simmons.
Yep. Unfortunately, we can't, like Madden, turn off the salary cap function. If that was the case, sure, sign me up. I don't care. Sign him for whatever you want. Sign Jalen for a $500 million guaranteed contract. Just, sign everyone. But unfortunately, yeah, we're dealing with the realistic terms of we got to make this work for the salary cap. And I'm with you, kind of like what we mentioned earlier. There's a lot of expectations or things that you have to do long term. A player like this, as talented as Jeffrey Simmons, Howie's not going to go into it and saying, sure, we can make it work for 1 year. It's going to be multiple years, but then it always comes back to the question, okay, what space do you have available? And the fact that our franchise quarterback has not been extended yet, you got to get that done first before anything else. Make sure to like, guys. Just a reminder, we've got 200 here watching. I think we've only got like 71 likes. So just go like it real quick.
Got to get to 100.
The algorithm, yeah, that'll help us out. Go give it a like.
Thomas, last year you wanted Nakobe Dean in the first round. We got him in the third. Is there potential first round talent he's sliding to Philly in the second or the third? There will be. Brian Brisset, however you say his last name, the Clemson defensive lineman, injured, could fall to the early round 2. I don't think he will, but could. Joey Porter Jr. is going to fall in this draft. He won't make it out of the first round, but he's going to fall. He was like option at 10. He's not an option at 10 anymore. I think he gets into the 20s. He could be someone that falls. Let me see. Who else? I think Jahmyr Gibbs will be a second round draft pick. But if he gets past Buffalo and he gets past Dallas, then, and obviously Bijan is gone because Dallas will take Bijan in a heartbeat because it's Dallas. But I could see Jahmyr Gibbs being a second round draft pick, even though he's a first round talent. There's quite a few. There is quite a few. And it's going to change. Obviously, it's going to change as we get closer and closer to the draft and they do in-person meetings. I saw the Eagles had a top 30 draft visit with Jalen Carter, and there's a whole thing on Jalen Carter with obviously the off-field issues. There was a very interesting quote from Dan Campbell. I don't know if you saw this, Josh, during the interview that he did a couple days ago when he was asked about Jalen Carter, and he said they found out something they didn't know before about him when they were doing research. And he said, and when asked if it was concerning, he said it was interesting, which it hinted that it didn't seem good. I'll try and send you the tweet when this is done.
I need to see that.
It seemed like he had found something on Carter he didn't like.
That sounds concerning.
That's an assumption. I don't know. I could be wrong. 100%.
Yeah,
could be wrong.
Yeah. It does. That doesn't sound like what you say whenever there is something that's not concerning. You would just say, no, we're all good. We like the player. We've discussed the player. He's a potential option, but to just say leave it at interesting. I've not seen that, but yeah, it's an interesting
take. Interesting take. Let's see here. What was I was going to say though? Philly met with Jalen Carter and they could fall in love with him and take him at 10. Or he could fall out of the first round. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think that he could have a chance to really free fall though. I think if he gets past us at 10 and we don't take him, it could be a big time free fall. Free fall.
Yeah. And we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen, obviously, in past drafts. You've got players that all of a sudden they're supposed to be this really high top pick, and news comes out, and then questioning the character or what's going to be the fit and everything else. And does he fall that far? I would be shocked if it happens. I don't think that it will, but like you mentioned, there's just things that we don't know about what went on behind the scenes or character issues. Obviously, the work ethic questioning and his pro day, how poor that performance was and how he looked there. So the draft stock is definitely declining, but as of today, still, I would be very surprised if he's not picked in the top 10. But if he's not, I'm with you. I think that, all of a sudden you could be like, well, where is this guy going to fall? Because no one knows at that point.
People are saying the same thing about AJ Brown. Let's read some comments here. Eagles draft any running back at 10, says Luis. I will buy every one of your followers a jersey of their choice. You don't want to say that. That's a lot of jerseys. There's 10,000 people. It's a lot of jerseys. I hope if you have money, Luis, okay, do it. Okay. We talk too much about Bijan, and I get the people who are sick of us talking about Bijan, but you understand why he's exciting. He's a skill player. I mean, he's a skill player, and he's not just a skill player. He's a running back, and that's the skill player. I mean, that's for as little as running back makes. They're talked about a bunch. Adrian Peterson was talked about a bunch. Zeke Elliott was talked about a bunch. We talk about running backs all the time. I think there is a better than 40% chance they take Bijan at 10. It feels like they're leaning that way. It feels like they're hinting about it. But
It kind of does.
it could be smoke, and that's the thing. And they could be putting it out there the way people like you and me hype everybody up and say they're going to take Bijan, they're going to take Bijan, and then they don't, and they take an offensive lineman. Could be that too. Howie's a smart
Yes,
guy.
yeah, he's a smart guy, and I'm still on the case. If you're going to ask me, like, I've got to pick for sure, and not what I want, but what's actually going to happen. I would still say that Bijan's probably not going to get picked. But what I would like for them to do is, yes, draft Bijan. I think that obviously why it keeps coming up is if I was to ask you, Thomas, like, what's the missing link? If you have to pick an offensive player, what's the one missing link to this offense that you could improve? The immediate choice is take Bijan Robinson, because the running back room, while I know that it's solid, and Nick said he loves it, he even mentioned Trey Sermon in his interview a couple of days ago, saying like, hey, we'd love to get him some more carries. He's the type of guy that we've seen in the practice field. He does some stuff. You're like, oh man, maybe we need to get him some more carries. And we haven't seen his full potential, but still, you look at the running back room now, you see you've got two stud receivers. You got an awesome tight end. The offensive line's fantastic. You've got your franchise quarterback. I mean, it's really the missing ingredient. The only thing is if you get a running back as talented and ridiculously athletic as Bijan Robinson, yes, no wonder everyone's just always like, yeah, that would be phenomenal just to see, because you got the RPO, you got Jalen Hurts there, the offensive scheming that you can do with that. I mean, how does a defense stop that type of offense? How does it stop one already as talented as the Eagles? But you add that, it's kind of like just the missing ingredient. So yes, it's getting a lot of headlines and getting a lot of talk because it's exciting.
Luffy says, I screenshotted that. I'm going to hold you to it. Talking about the jersey buy. No. He doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. The only way to get the jersey is a super chat way. That's how you get a Bijan Robinson jersey, because we're giving away one during night one of the NFL draft. What are the odds of the Atlanta getting Bijan before we have a chance? I don't think Atlanta needs Bijan Robinson. They have they're very happy with Tyler Algier, the running back they got late in the draft last year. He was really good, the best rookie running back, or one of the best. And they have Cordell Patterson. They need defensive pass rusher talent. That's where Tyree Wilson would end up going. Like Tyree Wilson or one of the two top cornerbacks will probably be an Atlanta Falcon by the time this is all done. Or they take a chance at Jalen Carter if they get assurances up in Athens, a couple of hours away, that he's good to go. And the whole rip in the Falcons is they never draft Georgia players, so they have a chance to. Greetings from the UAE, says Fahad Shahin. Well, there you go. United Arab Emirates
awesome.
Checking in here. We appreciate that. Let's see.
What time is it over there?
I would love to know. Is it tomorrow or yesterday? That's the question. I think it's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yep.
Boy, the comments are coming in so fast. I got to go through this. I can't people are so high on Carter. He had 6 sacks the last 2 years combined. His TFL isn't great either. It's his physical abilities is why he's so high. They see the next great interior defensive lineman. And I know he only has 6 sacks in the last 2 years, but that's 6 more than a lot of really good defensive linemen have. I mean, it's straight up that simple. Pass rushing defensive tackles are very rare. That's why Aaron Donald makes $33 million a year. It's why the Eagles brought back Fletcher Cox. It's so rare to get a defensive tackle who can rush the quarterback, and that's the hope with Jalen Carter.
Yep.
I love
or
Miles
you go
Murphy.
with Elijah Cansey. You wait later. That's my pick. I would love to see it. He had his pro day today. What did he do? He had more records? I mean, it's at this point it's ridiculous. But he set the record, or would have been the fastest. I think he said is like the shuttle or what was it? Oh, the 3-cone drill.
The 3-cone drill. Yeah. Yep. A really good indicator. Really good indicator. You have no idea. The 3-cone drill.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know for sure. But still, just the fact that
it set a record.
Whatever competition it is, he's the top at every single one of these athletic charts. I mean, yeah, the potential. I feel like he's beginning to be, at least to me, like the defensive version, or at least the defensive lineman version of Bijan Robinson. Like he just keeps on like everything you're seeing and reading. Yes, there's some size with him, saying like he's a little bit shorter armed, but just his ability to rush the passer. He's not a run stopper, but if you've already got guys like that, like a Jordan Davis, I mean, the potential of pairing those two, I'm just saying that to me is very enticing. I would love to see that.
The problem is, of course, that he looks like size-wise Aaron Donald. He went to the same school as Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald had the same exact draft stock going into his draft. He was not considered. I don't remember everyone being like, for sure he's going to be the best defensive lineman in NFL history. It was like, well, he's a little bit small, but he's powerful and he's quick, but can he sustain that in the NFL? And here we are. And that's why the hype there is crazy. Yep. John gets 5 more entries. I think he did super chat earlier. 5 more entries into the jersey giveaway. Again, one of you guys will get this NFL jersey. And on draft night, we're going to pick it. And then you have to send me an email with your information. And then I'll order it off Fanatics and send it your way. It'll be that simple. So Josh, you're entered. John is entered. 5 more entries into the jersey giveaway. He said, love the show. Appreciate that. We try. We try very, very hard. Gibbs is faster. Yeah, it's true. Both
He's
Bijan
smaller,
and
though.
Jahmyr Gibbs are going to be good. They're both going to be good. It's not running back is probably one of the easiest, I think, overall positions to scout with the naked eye. Josh and I could watch a couple of running backs in college football and be like, they're going to be very good. Josh and I would have a much harder time watching linebackers and being like, which linebacker do you think is going to be really, really good out of a bunch of linebackers that are basically the same? It's interesting how that all works. Okay. Drafting people on what they could possibly be is nuts. It's not nuts. It's what you do in every single round of the draft, except for maybe the first round, because you know he's going to be good. But isn't the draft all drafting people on what they could be, technically? Like,
Pretty much. Yeah. We're going based off of, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but how often do we have someone writing a draft report or a scouting report and you go back and read it to him? Hey, this is what I thought you'd be. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're an all-time great. I mean, like even think about Howie Roseman and Jason Kelsey, which I think that episode on New Heights is premiering like right now or just an hour ago it did or something. But even then, Howie's like, yeah, we had you graded as a 4th rounder. Well, okay, Jason Kelsey's a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. So, how often do people get it right? It's all about potential. It's, hey, maybe they're going to be a fit. I don't know. There's some weaknesses here. There's a guessing game. There's usually with the first rounders, especially the top picks, that's easier to hit because they're so far head and shoulders above all the other college players that you can just say, oh yeah, definitely take that player. But once you get out of that, yeah, it's a lot of potential. They also have to be in the right scheme, the right fit, the right culture. So it's kind of a crapshoot at that point. But I don't know. That's what it makes it always intriguing to me, though, and what I love so much about seeing Howie Roseman working and figuring out these guys and all the scouting, because you never know for sure. You see a guy and you're like, oh, okay, hey, I could get behind that. There's some potential there, reading some scouting reports. But until they're on the field and you see the action, I mean, come on, let's go back to Jalen Hurts. Like, that's the best case or the best example you could think of. Did anybody or most people think that was a great pick? I know I didn't. I'm like, are you kidding me? We just got our franchise quarterback. We just signed him to a big deal. Why are we drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round? But thankfully we did, because we'd be in a terrible hole at this point.
Think how many times in history we've taken somebody that you didn't want to take. I was against the Brandon Graham pick. I remember watching the Brandon Graham pick going, what? The pass rusher from Michigan? Why did we take him? Yeah. And he was great. And then I was also very much against the Derek Barnett draft pick. And for his first season, I was wrong. And since then, I was right. Like, we really don't know. And I said this last week. We're not Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, or insert famous NFL scout here. We really don't know. We really, really don't know. I do know that I did drop the Philly inverted hats quickly here. Quick plug. Philly inverted hats, which are live, linked down below in the description box right now. 2 of which we got a bunch of people who have already jumped on these. They are absolutely fantastic. I'm sending Josh one as well. He'll be getting his hopefully pretty soon. We're doing 20% off for everyone who orders right now during the show. So use the promo code MOTT20. It's all down below in the description box. Take the link at checkout, promo code MOTT20, 20% off the Philly inverted hats. So you're going to jump in on those. I think they look great. I'm having a bunch of fun with these, and you guys are too, based on the orders that I have gotten. So quick little plug there. City family, 2 more here. O-line depth, little concerned. I'm not. They will take an offensive lineman, and it'll probably be a 3rd round draft pick, and we'll go, who's that? Okay, he's the next, starting right tackle when Lane Johnson is gone for the next 10 years. I'm not that concerned. And you got to believe they're going to bring in undrafted free agent guys who turn out to be pretty good backups because they work under Jeff Stoutland. Like, that's what happens. Isn't, who was it? What was it? Was it last year? There was like No, I think it was watching the combine this year. The Mountain West Offensive Lineman of the Year went undrafted last year or something like that. Like the best offensive lineman in a college football conference, completely undrafted. Now it's a Mountain West, but hey, Mountain West, they got people up there. They can find somebody who's undrafted who knows how to play the game and can get coached up. Jordan Mailata was able to do it. So I'll be concerned about O-line depth when you have a situation like Lane Johnson were to retire, but apparently he's not.
Yep. I'm with you. I'm not super concerned. Yes, you're going to draft some depth. You may even sign someone who, for all we know, I mean, there's so much more time between now and the start of the regular season. But yeah, I think until you get to closer to the season, and you're going to have someone because injuries always happen. But Howie's been phenomenal at that. So the one, I guess I was going to say, is there one position group that I'm not concerned at all? Obviously, we already have great starters, but even for depth purpose, O-line will be taken care of. The fact that Stoutland is there and that Howie values that so highly, not concerned one bit.
Let's see here. Thomas, any Philly inverted shirts coming out? Maybe one day. Maybe one day. We're starting small. We'll start with the hat and we'll work our way up there. 20% off the hat though right now, if you guys want to jump in on that. But yeah, there's maybe in the future. I think it looks cool. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that like I told people I saw the upside down LA ones while I was in Malibu just for a wedding, which was some super rich wedding at one of my buddies' weddings, and I was like, that's really cool. Is there anything that happens with Philadelphia on that? And there just isn't a hat that has even Philly on it. And so I decided to make one. So there you go, right there. They are shipping. Most of the guys who order them on day one are going to get their shipping. They shipped today, or yesterday, so they should be getting them pretty soon. PhillyInverted.com. Tyler, okay, people are fighting in the chat. Mailata's a professional athlete and a freak of nature. Can't use him as a comp. I think you can use Jordan Mailata as a comp. I don't care how freak of an athlete you are. Learning to play left tackle and be one of the top 10 best at it in the world is very hard to do, and very hard to do. Now, you can make the argument he would have been a good left tackle regardless of where he played. Stoutland made him an all-pro left tackle, or at least a future all-pro left tackle. Big difference.
Absolutely. Yes. The coaching matters completely. The fact that Stoutland's done that for a number of years, but you could make the case in point there for Malata, obviously. So yeah, I'm with you. Completely agree there. Did you see, I know we've been speaking about draft prospects and, who we're going to take, who we should be keeping an eye on. Obviously, I like to keep track of like who the Eagles are visiting with. Not that it's always the case of who they're going to draft, but a lot of times you want to have a meeting with a player because you have a better idea of what that's actually going to look like. But Kelee Ringo from Georgia, there's lots of Georgia interest. Obviously, this team has lots of Georgia players on it.
Yes.
But it looks like he's got an official visit. That's a corner, some depth possibly. You've got Slay and Bradbury, but from everything that I'm reading, I mean, phenomenal statistics, athleticism off the charts. There's been, I guess, the only knock that I've seen on him is as far as just some anticipation, but something that it sounds like if that's your only gripe is, he could probably learn that. If you're behind Slay and Bradbury, you can get coached up and be better in that spot. But I mean, 6'2", what is he, like 210?
He's big.
So big cornerback. I'm just saying that, late, what is it? Second, I think he's like late second round, early third round, maybe being mocked right now. Just saying it is with the available picks that we have in the second and third, you get a Kelee Ringo like that. Cause I don't think it'll be first. I would love Christian Gonzalez. We've said it a number of times, even a Devin Witherspoon, either of those two I would love, but I can't see Howie doing that. So if you look at second and third round, hey, you get someone like that, second or third round, I would be very much in favor of Kelee Ringo.
I've seen talks of moving Ringo to safety, being very, very physical in terms of, actually being a tackling cornerback is what he is. My problem is I live in Atlanta. I watched a lot of Georgia games this past year, and the good wide receivers had their way with them. And I always go back to put in the C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr. tape against Georgia in the semifinal this past year, and Ringo got worked. Now, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. might be the best wide receiver to come out.
What did they say? Draft. They said he'd be a top 5 pick if he came out this year, and he's got another year. So
this year.
I get your point.
They said the Ohio State Pro Day this year, because he ran routes for C.J. Stroud, was like NFL scouts looking at the 2024 Ferrari or Lamborghini and not being able to touch it because they're working with the 2023 model. And Jackson Smith and Jeba's great. Yeah, when he's healthy, he's really good. And they're like, we don't care about this kid. Show me some more Marvin Harrison Jr. stuff. That guy's going to be insane. He'll be top 5 next year.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. He's nuts. Tyler Wallace getting in here. I know Tyler has got some entries into the jersey giveaway. I go D-line with our first pick. Who we pick at 30, or what should we do? Tyler, both Josh and I, if we had to put our entire life savings on what position group the Eagles would take at 10, would probably put defensive line. Josh's heart wants to say running back, and my heart wants to say that too, because it'd be fun. But in terms of our head says defensive line. That would make sense. 30, if you go D-line at D-line at 10, 30's your oyster. It's like you can do whatever you want. The world is your oyster at 30. You could go corner. You can go offensive line. You can go running back. You can go linebacker. They won't, but you go safety. You could do whatever you want at 30. It's really your pick, because if you had to say what the holes are on the Philadelphia Eagles right now, their holes are, I think in this order, they need some more defensive line depth. You can make that argument just based on the fact you can never have enough. And there's the whole idea of what will Jordan Davis be this year? What will Milton Williams be this year? There's people concerned about that. Josh and I aren't, but sure. I think that there are question marks at safety and question marks at linebacker and then question marks at running back. I think I would go D-line 1. Linebacker, to me, still is a little bit iffy, although I think it'll be fine. Safety, I like the Edmonds signing. I think him and Blankenship will be fine. Then I would go running back. That's how I would rank them. And then I don't even know what 5 is. Is 5 corner? No, because you have good corner depth. Is it offensive line, I guess? I guess it would be O-line because you just get wide receiver 3. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. I know. It depends on kind of where you're looking at it, and I guess also how you view Quez Watkins. But that one's always curious to me because Nick's made mention of, hey, he hasn't gotten his opportunities, but you can look at analytics that say he's gotten enough opportunities and hasn't done enough with it. So, but yeah, I don't know. Number 5, it's kind of a question mark. I think 30. I agree with you. If you get D-line at 10, you take 30 as an option. I like the option at that point of probably trading back, unless Kalijah Cansey is available at 30. That's probably just the name off the top of my head that just an automatic absolutely select him. But I don't think he's going to be available at 30. And so at that point, probably trade back, knowing that Howie trades so often in drafts to begin with. Stockpile a couple extra picks because you're already short on picks this year, and then select someone else. So I don't know. I know you mentioned too some of the other positions that you could select, but I mean, again, from the graphic that I saw, and I tweeted it. So if you're not following me on Twitter, go JDavis_2. But DeBerg's blog is the one that posted this. And out of the last 45 selections since 2016, Howie's only drafted 2 safeties, and those safeties have come on the 3rd day. So as much as you may want like a Brian Branch or an Antonio Johnson, I don't think you're going to draft a safety until much later in this draft. That's just not what Howie does. And so you take a look at it and, well, okay, at 30, you could draft, I would say maybe if there's an availability of possibly like a receiver, because at that point, I don't think that Howie's going to go based off of need. And that's what really most GMs do. You see a lot of great teams, and especially Howie, he's trying to solidify the team as much as possible. So you're drafting based on value and not team need, which is great. But I don't know. I could also see, hey, you go D-line. Maybe he's like, hey, let's go offensive line. Because I know the tackles, DeJuan Jones from Ohio State.
Yes.
And I can't remember the other one. But they've both gotten official visits with Philly too. So, and they seem to be mocked right in that 30 range. It's not a flashy pick. It's a backup, but both of the Ohio State tackles are beasts. And we know that the team loves offensive linemen. So I don't know. I could see that. If I had to say today what I thought he would do is probably just stick to what he D-line and O-line, but yeah, we'll see.
I was just thinking about the Lamar Jackson draft. The Ravens traded up with who? Philly, sitting there at where were we? What year was that? That was the 2017 draft. Or the 2018 draft was when Lamar came in. So that was pick 32, and Philly popped out of there, and they got more draft picks. And that would not surprise me if they do that with 30 again. You mentioned that at the beginning of what you were just talking about. I think that's a very real possibility. Tyler Wallace, 20 entries, big entry, a big enter-er. Is that even a word? Biggest entry of the night. How about that? Tyler says, if you go Bijan with the first pick, then go D-line because you still have names like BJ, McDonald. I always mess up that guy's pronunciation. Adembawar, I think is how you say his last name.
That's good enough for me. I struggle with his name too. I know who that is.
Names, yes. Even Cansey, if he falls, then go linebacker or second pick, safety with 3rd. That's fine. I mean, that would I would flip it. I'd go safety in the 2nd round, and then I would go linebacker with 3rd pick. But yeah. And that's why the people who say there's no chance of Bijan happening, any other year I would say yes, except for this year because of the lack of holes. Because of the lack of holes. They really don't have a lot of holes. Honestly, they don't. Tyler, I appreciate that, though.
You have the luxury pick. Yep, and we got you down up to 80 entries. So there you go.
Jeez, there you go. And that's why Gary says, yeah, you got great odds. Gary says you need another tight end. That shows you how many lack of holes you have when people say we need another tight end, we need a wide receiver 3, we need a punter, right? Like they don't need another tight end. It'd be luxury. I mean, I think Grant Calcaterra could be the next very good pass catching tight end. I really like what he did. Very limited snaps last year, but it shows you how few holes we have because we're talking about tight ends, backup tight ends, and wide receiver 3s, and getting a backup right tackle.
Yep. You're
Crazy.
filling voids. But I mean, again, this is the great place to be in. And this is what Howie's mentioned about past drafts. They're asking, hey, the Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, some of these other draft picks that we select. And he even said, he's kind of like, thankfully, they didn't actually have to play. He's like, you always want to be in the position where you are drafting for long term, drafting for future. If they don't need to go in and play immediately from day one, that's not a bad position to be in. And I agree, because at that point, you're drafting for value instead of, like what we mentioned, you're drafting for need. Because like what we've said multiple times on, as we're talking about what is the draft, and can you actually predict what a player is going to do, unless you're drafting in like the top 10, 15 of the first round. It's starting to get to be a guessing game, and certainly in second, third, and fourth rounds. And so if you're trying to say, oh, hey, we need a safety, or we need a receiver, we need an offensive line, and you're drafting second, third, or fourth round, then you're guessing and hoping that your draft selection fills a void. Versus if you can take a backup and say, you know what, we don't have to have them start, but we can give them some more time to grow. We can get them some coaching. We can hopefully develop them more. I think that's a much better spot to be in. So I'm all for where Howie's got the team structured. And I think it's like you say, there's not very many holes. So it's kind of luxury picks at this point. So I don't think that Bijan will be there, but I would love to see them take them. And I'm with you. I think that with this draft, it sets up as that's the most realistic possibility. If there was ever a draft that Howie's going to take a running back, it would be this one.
Someone just said, where was it? Trade back and from 10, take Dalton Kincaid in the middle of the first. That's the tight end. Not a chance. No.
I love Kincaid, but yeah,
no, thank you.
I don't think that's no.
Dallas is going to take him because they lost Dalton Schultz, and it's like the same name. So they'll be like, hey, we got him back. That would be funny. He'd be good, but it'd just be funny. They're like, bye, Dalton Schultz. Come here, Dalton Kincaid. It's just like, copy and paste. It's the same dude.
There you go. Yep.
Someone said, no way you want Kincaid in the first. Yeah, I don't. I didn't. No, thanks. Connor Maloney. I don't think Connor's entered the contest yet. Josh will confirm, but he does. Enters 5 here. Bring back Winston, a $3.99 deal to be the fourth string bench warmer. Yikes. Yeah.
That's
no.
cheap.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. I'd be a bench warmer for that much money. I don't know what Carson Wentz is going to get signed by somebody, right? Somebody's going to sign Carson Wentz. Sure. But I don't know who it is. I appreciate
it's hard to say.
5 though. Welcome.
Got you down for the 5 entries, but I mean, poor guy. But at this point, maybe he's going to get signed by someone. I think it's we're past the point of even signing him, for or really any sort of backup option. I'm so glad that we got Mariota obviously and the options there, but yeah, I think the writing's on the wall. You just don't revisit that well, I suppose. So
Carson Wentz, go sign somewhere that has a good offensive coordinator and a stable quarterback situation. Study, learn, eventually get your shot, because every quarterback gets injured at some point. Prove people wrong, then go get signed by a new team and try and run it back. That's his best chance. He's very talented. I was very pro Carson Wentz. Very talented. I think that it's we underestimate the mental challenge that was the 2017 season, where he's about to win a MVP. He gets injured, which is a very hard injury to come back from, and he watches his backup win a Super Bowl, and everyone kind of goes, wow, he literally watched someone else win the Super Bowl in his position, and everyone ripped him for not being a team player about that. I think we grossly underestimate how mentally difficult that was for him. And that's not the back. I mean, he still shouldn't have complained, been a good teammate, whatever. But I think we really, really don't think about the fact that that was extremely damaging to his career. And it had a lot of impact on where he went from there. He was never the same player. He hasn't been since. I think had he not gotten injured, I think he'd still be the Eagles quarterback. And I think we'd be still talking about him being great. I think the injury really ruined things there.
Definitely ruin things as part of the mindset. But I think that goes to also, I mean, speaking the difference and really the difference maker that Jalen Hurts is, because it's a special person, like what you talk about, to sit behind and watch another player perform well and still be the ultimate teammate. But Jalen proved that he did that. He did it in multiple instances, obviously with Alabama, and then he goes to OU. That's just the special person that Jalen is. Now, he said behind closed doors and in interviews, yeah, it hurt him, but he never did it publicly. He still was always cheering and supporting the team and ready to step in if he could ever take back over. So again, it's a very special person to be able to do that. But that's why I'm very happy that we have Jalen here. And you know what? Sorry for Carson Wentz, because I was one of those. I have the jersey. I know Cool Reigns, you mentioned there in the comments, the Eagles should sign Wentz, so my jersey looks good again. Hey, YouTube it. I looked it up. I've actually changed mine to an AJ Brown jersey, so if you want to do it, it's actually not that hard to do. I wore it to the NFC Championship game. You remember that, Thomas? But
yes, you did.
Yeah, I think I feel bad for Wentz. It was it was terrible. But injuries affect players in so many different ways. But I think, again, it just speaks to Jalen is our franchise quarterback, and we got to be so thankful for that, because his mental toughness, we talk about his physical strengths, but his mental fortitude is off the charts. I mean, there's nobody else that I can think of that's anywhere close to what his mental fortitude is.
Speaking of that, yeah, you changed out the back, so you have an AJ Brown jersey, you have a Devontae Smith jersey. We both wore them together. We went to the MC title game, and it looks the part. AJ Brown's much bigger than Devontae Smith. You're way taller than I am. You're like 6'4". I'm like 5'9". It was like, oh look, it's the YouTube version of AJ Brown and and Devontae Smith. It's pretty funny.
That was funny.
Marislim, say his name. Thomas Bro studied 10 tight ends. Kincaid is literally Zach Ertz. I think he's in the second round. You hop on that. He won't be in the second round. And I don't think we need him. We don't need two great tight ends. When was the last time a team with two great tight ends won a Super Bowl? That was the Patriots with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, right? Mm-hmm. Has there been one since? It seems like all you need is one tight end. I think two receivers is much more important than they already have it.
I agree.
Yeah, there's no way they take a tight end. There's 0% chance.
No. You've got other areas that you can select a guy. And if it's not like if Kincaid's available, I mean, yes, if he's available in the second round, that's not happening. Every single mock draft and grade and he's going to be in the first round. So if you're looking at him versus, name a player that's available at that spot, the Eagles could very easily take that. It's not like anyone's like, oh, wow, they missed an opportunity. They should have taken Kincaid, especially with the way that the team is built here. So yeah, I'm with you.
Wentz and Trey Lance are going to go back to North Dakota State and share a condo. Trey Lance is in some rough stuff, because I think that you saw John Lynch say yesterday or the day before that Brock Purdy would get the first team reps if the season started today. I mean, that was the fear of Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a perfect example of teams trying to recreate Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And they see a guy with very little experience, but he has the abilities, and they go, okay, let's make him into something great. And it's crazy that people are already saying he's a bad quarterback, even though he's never gotten to play. And that foot, leg, break, whatever it was, it's a rough injury to come back from.
Brutal, absolutely brutal. But it's a copycat league, so
it is.
You see it so often. I think that's why the Bears, don't get me wrong, Justin Fields is, great player, and the reason that they selected him. But I think that's what, the Bears take a look and they're like, well, hey, maybe we can get a Jalen Hurts option. I know that Jalen hadn't quite done what he did this year, but still, you even look at, hey, he's now starting. There's some potential there. And now there's a lot of comparison. I've seen Bears reporters and other content creators just mentioning, oh, Fields is going to far surpass Jalen Hurts. And, good luck. Sure, we'll see. But it's such a copycat league, because as soon as one player does something, then it's immediate. Hey, this is the format. This is the structure that we need to follow. And you just see it all the time. So yeah, I think that there's the idea of maybe Trey Lance can do that. But you talk about injuries. We talk about it with Wentz. We talk about it with a lot of other quarterbacks, a lot of other players. The idea of just coming back, and I think that we feel like, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but the big comeback stories always get the headlines. Like we think about like an Adrian Peterson comeback player of the year. There's the gruesome knee injury, and all of a sudden he runs for almost 1,800 yards or more than that. So it's like, but that gets the headlines. So all of a sudden we see an injury and we're like, oh yeah, they'll come back, no big deal. Like they'll be back the same level, or even surpass the level that they were at. But realistically, it happens a lot less than we think. We just see the headlines of the main times that it does, and it makes you think, oh yeah, this player is going to be back to what he was, and it's not even going to affect him.
I totally agree. Let me see. I had someone tweeting at me a question here, but it was the Jackson Smith and Njigba question. Let's go get Njigba. Njigba was a first-round pick. You can't spend a first-round draft pick on a third wide receiver. There's only one football, right? That's a problem.
Yeah, I think you got to do later rounds.
Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck. Yeah, but Selleck wasn't.
I don't know that
Selleck was really
that.
good.
That's not a two.
Yeah, I don't know about that. What about bringing back Sue and Joseph? We'll see. Maybe that's going to be a
middle of the season. If they want to just wait and not play for half the year and kind of secretly tell them, hey, if you guys stay in shape, if you're available mid-season and we need some depth, we'll sign you. But otherwise, no.
What do you guys think about drafting Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama in all caps? We talked about Jahmyr Gibbs. We both like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think people might freak out if you don't get Bijan Robinson on night 1 of the NFL draft. But if you get Bijan Robinson on day 2, then we'll all be like, oh. Or sorry, if you get Jahmyr Gibbs on day 2, we'll all be like, oh, great. Fine. Gibbs is great. I just think that the Bijan factor is looming large. Looming very, very large.
Yeah, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be very successful in the NFL and have a great career. I think the difference is that Bijan is going to be able to do more with less, if that makes sense. So if I think he can go to a lot more teams and make a bigger impact. Not saying that Jahmyr Gibbs can. I think he's going to be very successful, but it's like Bijan is just kind of that next level. And I don't know. I think that there's just a difference. Obviously, you'll see that where they get drafted. But yeah, I'm not going to be complaining at all. You take Jahmyr Gibbs in the second round if he's available, and that's how he does. We already know he's going to be successful because behind this offensive line, the scheming, the fit with Jalen Hurts, like, yeah, he's going to be phenomenal.
Someone said, hey, Thomas and Josh. What's up, Elijah? Welcome to the show.
What's up?
Isaiah Brockman, what guy can come in and instantly compete with Quez Watkins? I don't know if that guy's in the roster. I think that'd be an undrafted free agent receiver would come in and try and compete with Quez Watkins. There was this article on Bleeding Green Nation talking about how Quez Watkins had, what is it? Like so many drops here. What does this say?
He was second to last or something.
Is that what it was? Second to last in drops?
I think it was missed opportunities or I saw it earlier, but he's like catch opportunities and he was like second to last in the NFL. So that's the part where the analytics that I mentioned, Nick Sirianni keeps saying, he didn't have the opportunities, it's a different year. We had more playmakers.
He had plenty of opportunities.
But he had enough to kind of grade it based on the analytics to say he's not really making the most of his opportunities, even if it's a smaller sample size. So I don't know. You mentioned, questions of obviously we get, who can come in and instantly compete with Quez. There's tons of options, obviously, but I think draft wise, the one that I've seen the most, and I don't know how he would do this, but you talk about drafting receiver and Nathaniel Tank Dell. So I did it in the mock draft on, I guess it was Sunday. That's a guy that I could definitely see. I mean, he's a speedster, phenomenal catch radius. He's got lots of great gradings as far as just what he can do as a playmaker, and he has some punt returns and kick returns from college, so we're lacking that to begin with. Maybe he could come in and fill a void there too, so you get a versatile player from that dynamic. The only issue that I've seen in the scouting reports keep saying is he's not the best route runner. I don't know, at this level, you've played in college for a while, I think you could probably clean that up, especially with you're not asking him to be the number one, number two, probably the number three even option at this point. So I don't know, his speed and versatility, you add a playmaker like that, I would be all for it. So that's, there's a number of options, but so far I think you don't have to waste a lot of draft capital to select a guy in the first or second round, maybe get him in the third. But I could see that. That'd be interesting.
Quez is the new Aguilar.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and someone just said, Tyler said, can we act like Aguilar was good? Without him, we wouldn't win a Super Bowl. He was good in the Super Bowl. Yeah, sure.
He did have his moments.
He had his moments.
I'll give you that.
Quez has had his moments, but the drops are a little bit rough, and they're not going to get rid of him. I mean, they're going to bring in competition, and it'll be an undrafted free agent guy or a 7th round draft pick, and it'll be open season. And it doesn't really matter who wins it because they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Excuse me. Let's go get Rosen. Is that Josh Rosen? Okay.
Surely. What?
Ian Book's on the roster. We forget that Ian Book was the backup quarterback there for a little bit. Do you think we could bring in Julio Jones if the price was right? No. Julio Jones is like 50 years old and his knees don't work. No.
He's done. You could tell.
Yeah. He's unsigned right now, right? No one wants Julio Jones. Julio might get signed, like you said, middle of the season for a wide receiver desperate team, but Julio, since being traded from the Falcons, has never been the same Julio. And that happens. It stinks, but it happens.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go 10 more minutes here. We already passed. We roll past the hour. It always goes so fast here. If you guys want to get the questions in, we'll go just straight questions here to go ahead and wrap things up and move on. Roseman, I'd rather have Nathan Peterman. Yeah. Is Peterman still in the league? I don't remember.
I don't
remember. Let's see. Aguilar was great the whole Super Bowl season with the best slot receivers in the league. He was good. But the year after that, it started with week 1, and it never got better. It never got better. It's very true. It never got better.
Hey, thoughts on, I know you did a show on this, but we haven't mentioned it with all the other news that's gone on, but Terrell Edmonds signing, I think, is great to be able to sign for that cheap of a deal. And you're talking about depth, and from the stats, he was a better tackler than C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's not necessarily a playmaker. He had, I think I saw this correctly. He's had 0 interceptions in the last 2 seasons,
something
or
like
3
that.
seasons, something. So he's not really a ball hawk necessarily. I don't know what the scheme that he's been in, and maybe it was just, hey, he's going to be focused more in the box. But just your curious general thoughts for the signing itself and where you think it fits. I mean, just how he's been doing there. But I just love to know what you think on that side.
No, I think it's a fine signing. I think he's probably going to be your starter. I think it rules out Brian Branch. And I think it shows that Howie doesn't really value safety that much. I think he liked C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He wanted to bring C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think that it got to a point where, the drama there was too much, but they didn't re-sign Malcolm Jenkins. Obviously, they got rid of Brian Dawkins at, a time, and I know there are different reasons for all that sort of thing, but I think he believes if he has shutdown corners and a good pass rush, anyone can play safety. And you got to make an argument that a lot of the C.J. Gardner-Johnson interceptions were tip passes or bad throws, and that's what most safeties interceptions are. They're, over the middle, tipped, and then you go ahead and, grab another one because it comes over your receiver's head and then you catch it. So, I'm fine with him. He's not going to be better than C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but does he need to be? Again, this entire team elevates everybody around it, and defensive line elevates the linebacker play. The defensive line elevates the pass rushers, or elevates the corners, the safeties. Offensive line elevates the running backs. That's clearly their idea right now. Pre Bijan Robinson draft potential, they feel like this offensive line is going to elevate Rashad Penny, and it's going to elevate Kenny Gainwell. And you saw that happen in the playoffs when they ran Kenny Gainwell more than Miles Sanders. So I have no problem with it. It's not a sexy signing. It'll be one of those signings where you'll look back halfway through the season and either be like, oh, wow, this was a steal. Or it'll be like, oh, he's average. So I don't know. It just didn't make me go like, oh my gosh, we got Terrell Edmonds. Wow. It was like, okay, cool. I didn't know who was going to play safety opposite of Blankenship. Now I do. Simple as that.
Yep.
Tyler Walls, 2 more. Great stream. Always love you guys. Hope everyone has a good night. Tyler, we appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
I was trying to get the there it is up there. Appreciate the entry. 20 more entries in there for Tyler. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse for the most entries. But again, it gives him a better odd. Doesn't guarantee it, but he has a chance. Tyler, we do appreciate the support there. Big time support. Appreciate that. Penny Gainwell, Scott, Trey Sermon. Sirianni was asked about Trey Sermon. The Trey Sermon drama is very funny. I mean, he is so polarizing in the Eagle community about why we don't run him that much. And Sirianni's answer was weird. He was like, man, he was so good in practice and he had some great cuts and it was crazy. And oh my goodness, but they never used him. So I don't know. Something tells me that they don't feel confident in him because he's going to be the 4th running back going into this year. Let's see here. Trying to see more questions. Like 2 or 3 more questions. We'll go ahead and wrap things up. Special teams. Yeah. I've seen. Aren't they interested? I saw some tweet they're interested in a punter. I don't know who his name was. We'll see about. They're going to sign a punter at some point this offseason. Whoever it is, I don't know. Not that big a deal. I'll do a show on it. It'll get like 30,000 views because people are so excited to see punters being signed.
Just see who that is.
So excited. I wish
did you mention?
Go ahead.
Did you mention? I know we were talking about Nolan Smith earlier, but I just actually saw this. But did you see his quote after the visit? Did you see what he said?
No.
So this is Jacob Sports reported this, but he said, it just seems like an organization that's a perfect fit for me. And it's kind of bold to say. Again, you don't always have the prospects that are actually going to come and right out and say, yes, I love this organization, because they're trying to say, I want to be drafted basically as high as possible. But that was interesting. I always love whenever you get some, love back from a guy like a Nolan Smith. We'd be excited to get him at a certain position.
Yeah.
But
the Eagles are a good organization. I mean, these guys understand that where they're drafted can have a big impact on their career. And would you rather go learn behind Hassan Reddick, or would you rather go, I don't know, I don't want to dump on teams, go insert some bad football team and learn behind them? Are you going to get more sponsorship deals if you're on a Super Bowl winning Eagle team or if you're on the Texans? I mean, it's as simple as that. Yeah. Every franchise is good. Every franchise gives you a chance to play. Every franchise will eventually, find their time to shine. But I think these guys do have a fear of being drafted by a bad football team and going there for 5 years because you're obviously on a rookie contract. And then, no one knows who you are. You don't have a sponsorship with Nike. You don't have any of these ad deals, and you just kind of waste away. It happened with the Lions for a long time. You get drafted by the Lions, and it was like, all right, well, have fun being at the bottom of the division. We'll forget who you are real quick and move on. Remember Jeff Okudah? He was supposed to be one of the best corners in the draft, got drafted, and have you heard from that guy? I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what he's doing. No. And the Lions have eventually turned things around, and they're a destination spot now. But I think that's what players mean and understand in a social media driven world. They understand that if you're Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys, your brand deals are way bigger than if you're Micah Parsons on, I can't even think of a bad football team right now. The Texans. I keep saying the Texans, the poor Texans, but it's a good example. Then you're Micah Parsons on a bad football team. It's very different. It's very different. The Browns. There you go. The Browns. Exactly. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to play in Philadelphia? Seriously, who would? Oh,
completely.
Right now, Who wouldn't want to play in Philadelphia? It's the same effect Michael Vick had in 2010 when they were building the dream team. Now, that didn't work out. It's a little different. These are draft picks, but it's the exact same thing. Michael Vick makes the Eagles so special. He makes them so dangerous. They can come from down 31, whatever, against the Giants, Miracle in the Meadowlands. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. And they understand the leadership of it. You walk in there, and it's like, no BS. This is our guy. Let's rock and roll. And it's really cool. It's really
and you're
cool.
playing in an easier, I'm not saying it's easy, but an easier conference. You got that going too. So yeah, lots of players, obviously. Sign me up.
Hurts can be our punter like Randall. There you go. When do you think they're going to launch? Let's finish here. When do you think they're going to launch the Kelly Greens, the jerseys?
Man, I don't know. Like you're saying, like
now?
which yeah, like maybe I think you probably wait till after the draft, don't you? Like if you're because you got to let the buildup of the draft happen, right? You get your draft picks in, and then there's a little bit of a lull. I know OTAs and all that happens, but like there's a little bit of a lull and kind of just the news breaking what's going on. So I got to think after the draft, maybe a week after the draft, you release it, kind of get the hype going for that, and then you plenty of time, obviously, for jersey sales, get prepared. Then the question becomes too, like what game are they going to do it on? You know, like. Are they gonna announce that, or is it just kind of a wait until
Sunday
later?
night against Dallas.
I would love that. Yes, and we'll be there, right? If that happens.
Well, they would wear them at home. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, because you were saying, yeah, we go to that one. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. I've never been to a Sunday night football game. I've been to Saturday night, and I've been to Saturday night. I've been to 2 Saturday night playoff games, but I have not been to a Sunday night regular season game. That'd be very fun.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be very, very
You
fun.
got to. I was there. Last time I was there.
That's
we
right.
beat the Cowboys 32-13, I think.
Yeah, that was
with Jay Ajayi broke off that massive run and just killed him from the start.
Behind. Yep. There you go. All right, guys, that's it for the Wednesday link. We appreciate you guys every single Wednesday. Shout out to all the people who did the super chats, getting in on the jersey giveaway. We are, 4 live shows away from the draft, I think. We're 3 weeks, and then there'll be a Wednesday, and then there'll be we live Thursday. We live Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of draft week. It's going to be a busy week that week, so it'll be a lot of fun. All right, follow Josh on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to Josh's channel, and obviously subscribe to mine as well. And we will be talking to you guys on the next one. See ya.